Hello board game brothers and sisters, I'm Adam Singer and welcome to another episode where I'll be letting you know of all the board games launching on Kickstarter and GameFound over the next week. And if you're new to the channel, we do this every week going over all the upcoming campaigns, so if you want to stay up to date, this is definitely the place to be. But if you want to stay even more up to date, definitely go ahead and check out Alex over at Board Game Co. because I put out a video every single week, but Alex puts one out every single day. And we do work together putting together these lists of upcoming campaigns, so if you do like this sort of content, it's definitely nice to show him some support as well. And this is also normally the part where I go over some new exciting announcements and discoveries that I just found out about, but I don't have too much over the past week, so we can just get straight into the campaigns. So let's check them out. And the first campaign we have launches on November 15th, and this one's called Werewolf the Apocalypse Retaliation. This plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. And no, this one doesn't have anything to do with One Night Ultimate Werewolf or any of its variations. This one is actually a combination of a role-playing game and a dungeon crawler. And in this game, players are actually going to be branching out into more mature and violent themes because you're actually going to be playing as werewolves on the brink of extinction as you go up against a larger threat. And this one is a cooperative game where players are going to be working together to complete different scenarios where the decisions you make will affect the way that the story unfolds and the opportunities that arise in front of you. And since you are a werewolf, you're going to have a human form, a wolf form, as well as a werewolf form. And players will each be starting with different attributes and abilities, but you will be able to level those up as you develop throughout the game, and your progress throughout the campaign will be tracked on a singular board. And also the main board is going to be made up of modular tiles, which gives a lot of variability from game to game. And players will be exploring the main map, interacting with different NPCs and enemies and points of interest, but they'll also be solving mysteries. And solving these different mysteries can cause new developments or new areas to open up on the board, or it might indicate some certain item that you are looking for as you're exploring the board that might hint you in the right direction. Combat in this game does feature both card play and dice rolling, and players will be tracking their health and stats on their own personal player boards. And if the players are able to complete the objective of the scenario, then they win the game. And as always, if you want to know more, I have links to all these campaigns in the description below. And also launching on the 15th, we have Tank Clash Western Front, and this is a 2-player game that takes about 30 to 120 minutes to play, and this is a game that I did cover in a previous week, but it got pushed back until now, so I'll just go ahead and roll that footage for you now. And in this game, each player is going to be controlling their own platoon of tanks, each with their own stats and defense, and your tanks are going to be represented by stacks of tokens out on the main board. Depending on your tank's defense value, you're going to be adding one more token to that stack, and if players want to defeat that tank, then they need to deplete that tank of all its tokens. But what's nice here is that you're also going to have an ace character that you can add to one of your tanks to roll an additional die when it comes to your dice rolling. And to win the game, you just have to complete one of 3 objectives. First, you can either capture an enemy checkpoint, destroy a subset of their tanks, or destroy the tank that has their ace unit on it. And the main play area is going to be set up by placing out 4 different boards, and these boards will have all sorts of different terrain on them, and they'll have different effects on the tanks that are in those spaces. And players are going to be taking turns performing just 2 actions on their turn, and they're going to be spending those actions between movement and attack. And if you're attacking, you're going to have some sort of range, and then you're going to be resolving that attack using dice rolling. And if your tank's able to roll multiple dice, that's always beneficial because you'll always be able to take the value of the highest die, and the dice don't directly correlate to damage. Instead, they all correlate to some sort of action. Most of the actions do deal damage, but some of them might have other effects like pushing your opponent back a space. And anytime you deal damage, you just put a damage token out on that tank, and every time a tank is dealt 3 damage, it's going to be removing 1 token. And players can also gain morale cards by completing different feats or certain dice rolls, and you can also spend those on your turn in order to perform whatever ability it grants. And the first player to complete one of those 3 objectives first wins the game. And another campaign that I did cover in a couple previous videos is also supposed to be launching on the 15th. We'll see if it does, but this one is for Project EOS Rise, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 60 to 180 minutes to play. And I don't think I had too much info on this game when I initially covered it, but I'll just go ahead and roll that previous footage. Where Project EOS Rise is a 1 to 4 player cooperative space adventure game that matches up worker placement, push your luck, and dice placement game mechanics. You and your crew will travel through the universe, hunting down fast radio bursts that will advance your progress towards finding the Paradise Planet. Once the planet is located, the crew will put everything on the line to attempt to reach it. The game uses a roll for location game system that ensures each playthrough generates a unique universe with unique challenges, as well as a light RPG system that allows crews to explore and discover multiple paths to victory. Whatever path you take, the 4 characters, the pilot, the combat specialist, the engineer, and the medical director, can advance their skills to give you the best benefit to your mission. Do you spend your credits to expand the EOS or open up new actions like mining, scanning, or crafting? Do you want to smuggle and deliver interesting cargo to different galaxies to gain intel and advance your progress, or would you rather attack alien ships using the combined strength and skills of the crew? Whatever path you choose, time is of the essence because each year brings the star marker one space closer to extinction. But whatever you do, you'll always want to keep the starship EOS in working condition because if the command room is destroyed, your mission is aborted and the game is lost. And also launching on the 15th, we have Maple Valley, and this plays 1 to 5 players and takes just 45 to 75 minutes to play. And this one is also my personal pick of the week. And I do have a few reasons for that, but the main one is that this is coming from Kids Table Board Games, and I think they just have a great track record for creating games, both from a design perspective as well as the presentation. And not only that, this specific game is actually supposed to be a bit of a sequel to the game Creature Comforts, which is their most popular game. But Creature Comforts is not required to play this game, and even though there are a couple shared elements between them, they do play very differently from each other. Where Creature Comforts was more of a worker placement game, this one is more of a worker movement. And this game also takes place a little bit in the future compared to Creature Comforts because in Creature Comforts you were preparing for winter, but in this one winter has come and gone and now you're preparing for the spring festival. And the way that this game works is that players are going to be playing as the children of the village, and you're going to be traveling around the valley to forage resources, to craft party favors to provide at the festival. And these party favors are going to be coming in the form of different objective cards where if you find the proper resources, then you'll be able to complete that card, and that's going to help you earn victory points. But a really cool thing about these is that each of them will have an additional requirement, and if you're able to fulfill that as well, then you can gain an additional bonus. But the Valley doesn't just offer resources because players can also discover different curiosities. And these are really helpful because these can actually help you make more friends within the Valley. And these character cards can help you in different ways, like allowing you to move through different terrain types or allowing you to move further. And of course, since this is a worker movement game, each location is going to have an action associated with it. And whichever location you end your movement at, you're going to be able to take that action. And you may also want to be a little bit picky with the objective cards that you're trying to complete because each of them do have an icon associated with it. And there's going to be a few randomized festivity cards that are put out at the start of the game. And these are kind of like a shared goal for all the players. And there's going to be a collection of different icons on each of these, and there can be overlap across them. And you'll be able to put a token of your color covering up any of the icons on those festivity cards that you're able to match up by completing the different objectives. And these festivity cards actually have a couple uses in the game. First of all, they're going to gain additional victory points to the players that have the most tokens out on that card by the time that it's completed. But once it is completed, and what that means is once all the icons have a player's token on it, that's going to trigger a special event associated with that festivity that's going to have a positive effect for all the players. And at the end of the game, the player that has the most victory points from completing the different objectives and from having the majority of victory points from those different festivity cards wins the game. And if you want to check this one out or get notified of its launch, I have links to the campaign in the description below. Also launching on November 15th, we have Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. And this plays 1 to 3 players and takes about 45 to 130 minutes to play. And yes, this is based on the video game with the same name. But this board game is going to be a scenario-based game where you're going to be choosing a scenario and then setting up the board and terrain tiles according to that scenario. Players are going to be able to choose a faction as well as a faction leader. And the way this game works is that players are going to be exploring the main board, visiting the different locations, and performing the different actions that are associated with them. These can give you different benefits, but most of these locations depict some numbers on it that will indicate the type and level of enemies that you'll have to fight in order to perform the action that is located there. But battles don't happen on the main board. Instead, you're going to be moving them over to the battle board. And each player is going to have their own personal battle board that they're managing throughout the game, and you'll be able to gain and spend tokens to recruit different units. And there's a few different types of units. There's your ground units, your flying units, and your ranged units. And the difference between them is that they're going to have different movement as well as different attack ranges. You'll also be able to spend tokens to gain different magic attack cards that give you some special attacks that you can use against your enemies. And then there's other tokens that you can spend to gain different building cards, and if you pay the resources to build that building, it can give you some special effects like a special ability or some resource generation that gets triggered at the start of each round. But when you actually go into battle, you're going to be setting up the enemy battle board according to the enemy units that were drawn, and then you're going to be sliding that board along with your board in order to start that battle. battle. And all the units involved in the battle are going to trigger an initiative order, and in order to attack, you're going to be playing any cards from your hand as well as rolling a die to modify that attack value. And you'll be able to gain experience points for defeating any enemies, but any enemies that you're not able to defeat will retaliate and perform a counter attack. And of course, once all the characters on one side or the other are defeated, then that would trigger the end of the battle. And once all the players have performed their actions, you're going to be moving into the following round, and a couple things can happen at the start of each round. A special event can happen that can affect all players positively or negatively, but then also players can generate resources from their resource generation engine that they were able to build up throughout the game so far. And the game will be offering scenarios for cooperative, competitive, and solo play. And if you want to know more about this one, I have links in the description below. And also launching on November 15th, we have Dark Venture, the second edition, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 60 to 90 minutes to play. And this is a retro story-based adventure game that takes place in a post-apocalyptic sci-fi world. The game offers modes for solo, cooperative, or competitive play, and at the start of each game, players can choose their hero, and then the main quests and side quests will be drawn for players to try and complete. And there's a few different cards that players can gain throughout the game. There's the location cards that can be played on the map to modify the board and determine the story that's going to be unfolding. Then there are the item cards that can be played onto your hero's inventory, and it basically just gives them some special abilities or recovers their health or things like that. And then finally, there are the character cards that can be played onto the map to help your hero, or they can be used to complete the requirements of the different quests. But the way this game works is that players are going to be using their actions to move around and explore a main map, and you might enter different locations that have aggressive beasts, and if you do that, you have to engage in battle, or you might find yourself entering a location with more docile beasts, and these ones won't attack you on sight, but if you do spend another action point, you can choose to attack them, which will put them into an aggressive state, and will also trigger a battle. And anytime you enter a battle with a beast, you're going to want to check their card for any special effects that might change the way that the battle flows. And each player has a player board with their own set of stats, and you're going to be combining your speed with a dice roll and then comparing that to the enemy's speed in order to determine who attacks first. And once that's determined, combat's going to go back and forth between the characters until one character is defeated. And inflicting damage works very similar to the initiative, where you're going to be checking your attack power and then combining that with a dice roll in order to issue that amount of damage. Of course, you can also have different attack bonuses or play cards in order to augment that value, and it can also be defended by a defense value of your opponent. But if you feel like the enemy might be a bit too strong and you're not quite ready to take them on, you can always try to flee. And this isn't guaranteed, but it is always an option. But if you are defeated, no player ever dies in this game. Instead, you're just put unconscious. And if you're ever put into the unconscious state, you're going to be doing a skill check at the start of each round to see if you're able to get out of it. If it's failed, you lose your turn for that entire round and you remain unconscious. And that's obviously not a great thing because all the characters and enemies will regain health and actions each round, but if you're in an unconscious state, then you just kind of remain at the state that you are while everything else is getting stronger. And the second edition of this game is going to be updating the rules to make them faster and more streamlined while also allowing for more actions and exploration to occur. And if you already have a copy of the original game, there will be an upgrade pack as well to get you everything that you are missing in that original release. And the campaign is also going to introduce 2 new expansions that are going to introduce some new characters in the game, as well as some new mechanisms and effects that you haven't seen before. And of course, if you want to know more, I have links in the description below. And launching on the 15th over on GameFound, we have the Bestiary of Sigillum, and this is a game that plays either 2 to 4 players and takes about 40 to 60 minutes to play. And this is a team-based game where each team's trying to be the first to destroy the opposing team's castle. And the way this game works is that each player or team is going to be controlling 3 different characters, and you'll be able to choose these at the start of the game, but you're going to be summoning them to the board, moving them around, and trying to control the different catapults out on the board, because any catapults that are in your possession at the end of a round will inflict damage on the opposing team's castle. But that's not all you can do, because each of the characters will also have their own special abilities that will allow them to move in special ways, perform attacks on the other characters or your enemy's castle, and even offer a support ability that you can use to combine and boost the abilities of your other units. But the neat thing about this game is that anytime you use one of your abilities, it's going to take some time to recharge before you can use it again. Normally, the stronger abilities are going to take longer to recharge, and the way that all that is tracked is by using this time tracker. And anytime you use an ability, you're going to be putting a token out on this time tracker, and it's going to rotate throughout the game, and once it gets to your token, then you're going to get that ability back. And there's no dice rolling or drawing cards, so players are really going to want to think about which abilities they use and when, because this is a game that has zero randomness, and whether you win or lose is going to be completely up to you. And launching on the 16th, we have Glory and Empire First Victories, Wellington versus Napoleon. And this is a war game that takes place during the Napoleonic War. And in this game, players are going to be controlling all sorts of units with different stats, moving them out on the board in different formations, and following a system that was designed to be simple and streamlined, but with a high focus on enabling the game to be as historically accurate as possible. And the map plays into the realism as well, because it has an accurate depiction of the altitudes and terrain of the areas that you're going to be fighting in, and these will have some effects on the battle depending on the units that you're using. Some units might be more suited for close quarters, while others are more suited for ranged combat, and your units will be moving around in brigades that can move and switch between different formations. But the primary resource in this game that's baked into all other mechanisms is the morale resource. And I really love that thematic tie-in, because Napoleon himself did say that in war, morale power is to physical as 3 parts out of 4. And if you want to know more, you can check out the GameFound page, which I have linked to in the description below. And that's it for this week, but don't leave yet, because we still have an awesome giveaway to announce, and these are the easiest giveaways to enter ever. All you have to do is leave a comment down below. You don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe, you don't have to do anything else, although I do appreciate those things. And this giveaway is going to be for a pledge for Copan Dying City, and this looks like a really interesting Euro game where the whole map is falling apart as you're playing the game. And this is a Euro game where players are going to be putting their worker out on the board in order to perform the associated actions there, and this is a game that rewards you for performing the same action repeatedly, because if you're able to keep your worker in the same location, you're going to be gaining additional resources or additional victory points just for doing that. But that may not always be your best play, because the different actions will entice you with different rewards depending on the place that you're visiting, and the different locations can do all sorts of different things, like grant you permanent special abilities, grant you resources, or increase your resource capacity, help you gain different objective cards that you can try to complete before the end of the game, or even allow you to chain certain actions together so that you can perform multiple actions on a future turn. And there's other actions you can perform as well, but whichever actions you want to do, you got to make sure that you're doing them quick, because each round you're going to be rolling a die, and then that can have different effects on the board and even permanently block out action spaces for the rest of the game. This means that players are going to have to roll with the punches and do the best they can with the increasingly limited amount of action spaces that they still have available to them. And you're not going to want to miss this giveaway, because this one is for an all-in pledge, which is going to get you the core game as well as all the expansions, deluxe tokens, and promo cards, and also all the card sleeves you need to sleeve every card. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag Copan. And since we're getting into the months of fall here, I want to know what your favorite fall activities are. And at least here in Canada, all the different colored leaves and the fact that there's absolutely no bugs out there right now makes the trails really enticing. Good luck in the giveaway, and I'm excited to see all the different suggestions. And if you entered the giveaway for last week, make sure you go ahead and check out the Discord in the description below and check out the giveaways channel. And feel free to just fire me a message or email me at adam@shelfclutter.com if you are the winner. And that's all the campaigns for this week. A shorter week than what we've been used to in the past few weeks here, but I hope there's still something that caught your eye. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full.